Let's watch, please.
Breaking air here because, as you can see, officials in Memphis, Tennessee, stepping to the microphones to begin a news conference after the death of Tyree Nichols. We want to listen in as we expect to hear more about indictments against 5 Memphis officers, now fired, now in jail. Taking a look here, it looks like they're just about set to begin. The district attorney giving the update here as we await potentially the release of body cam footage that is likely to be incredibly significant in this case. That should come at some point soon, we've been told. Let's take a moment as these officials here gather themselves at the podium. We are going to hear, as we said, we expect to hear from the DA. We have our team live on the ground there, including Antonia Hilton in Memphis, legal analysts standing by as well.
2 minutes early. I just want to say thank you for being here today. We know there has been a lot of anticipation surrounding the Tyree Nichols investigation. As you know, on January 7th, there was an encounter between 29-year-old Tyree Nichols and former MPD officers. Immediately upon learning about this, DA Mulroy, Shelby County District Attorney DA Mulroy, enlisted the assistance of the TBI to determine if excessive force had been used. And since then, the DA's office has worked with TBI, and we will continue to do so. Today, you will hear from DA Mulroy along with the director of TBI, David Rouse. And so I want to just make it very clear and ask for your understanding that this is still an ongoing investigation. And so for that reason, there are limits to some of the things and some of the questions that we can answer. So we ask for your understanding as it relates to that. And I will turn it over to DA Mulroy. And did I mention that we will take questions after, but we have a really limited amount of time. So thank you.
Thank you, Erica. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for coming. I'm joined today, as Ms. Williams has already said, with the director of the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation, David Roush, as well as Assistant Director Josh Melton. I'm also joined by other members of my staff, including Ernest Brooks, Ray Lapone, Gerald Skagen, but then also most relevant for today, the trial team in the Tyree Nichols case, including Paul Hagerman and Tanisha Johnson. Another member of the trial team, Melanie Headley, is unavailable. We're here today because of a tragedy that wounds one family deeply, but also hurts us all: the death of Tyree Nichols. We understand and acknowledge the grief that the friends and family of Tyree Nichols are experiencing right now, as well as the great concern throughout all of Memphis and Shelby County about this case. We met several times this week with the family of Tyree Nichols. They described an almost perfect son, a cheerful and happy person who enjoyed skateboarding and sunsets over Shelby Farms Park. We're grateful to the family of Tyree Nichols for their patience as we expedited both the investigation and the consideration of charges in this case, as well as the understanding on the part of the family that premature release of the video could compromise both. And we did work quickly to expedite this investigation because of the extraordinary nature of the case. Compared to the average investigation and prosecution decisions in a case like this, we worked swiftly, but also fairly, and most importantly, in a way calculated to ensure that we have a strong case. As you might have heard from Ms. Williams, in this case and any other officer-involved fatality case, I immediately called in the TBI so that we could have an independent investigation. I also assigned to the newly created Justice Review Unit within my office, which works independently and separately both from law enforcement and the rest of my staff, to make a truly objective recommendation about whether criminal charges were appropriate. I want to thank the TBI, the Justice Review Unit, and the trial team for working swiftly but thoroughly under very difficult conditions. Earlier today, the grand jury returned indictments against 5 former Memphis Police Department officers regarding the death of Tyree Nichols. These are the same 5 officers who were previously or recently terminated by the Memphis Police Department. They are currently in custody. They are Tadarius Bean, Demetrius Haley, Emmett Martin III, Desmond Mills Jr., and Justin Smith. The grand jury returned indictments against all 5 with the same charges. And we had previously met with the family of Tyree Nichols to go over what these charges were going to be. And that meeting with the family, I think, went rather well. Here are the charges: second-degree murder, aggravated assault, aggravated kidnapping resulting in bodily injury, aggravated kidnapping involving the possession of a weapon, official misconduct through unauthorized exercise of power, official misconduct through failure to act when there is a duty imposed by law, and official oppression. While each of the 5 individuals played a different role in the incident in question, the actions of all of them resulted in the death of Tyree Nichols, and they are all responsible. It's important to note, as Ms. Williams said, that this is still an ongoing investigation, and therefore there are limits on what we can say about this case. We ask for everyone's continued patience as we continue to vigorously seek justice in this case. We also know that the public is very concerned about whether they can see the video about this incident and the timing of the release of this, the video of this incident. I have been in regular contact with the city of Memphis, the custodian of that record, and I can tell you that the city will be releasing the video sometime after 6 p.m. Friday, tomorrow, and that the city of Memphis should be making a statement somewhat later on this afternoon regarding the timing of that release. Let me close by saying, both to the family of Tyree Nichols and to the broader community here in Memphis and Shelby County, we all want the same thing. We want justice for Tyree Nichols. It's my hope that if there is any silver lining to be drawn from this very dark cloud, it's that perhaps this incident can open a broader conversation about the need for police reform. The world is watching us, and we need to show the world what lessons we can learn from this tragedy. I'm hopeful that we can show them who I know us to be: a community working towards positive change here in Memphis and Shelby County. With that, let me ask Director Roush to step forward.
Thank you, DA Mulroy. Good afternoon. I'm David Roush, Director of the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation. First and foremost and most important, on behalf of the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation, I want to extend my deepest condolences to the family and friends of Tyree Nichols. My prayer is that God will wrap his comforting arms around you and keep you during this very difficult time. We can't imagine the pain you're experiencing, but let me reaffirm, we are here to pursue truth and justice, realizing that we should not be here. Simply put, this shouldn't have happened. I've been policing for more than 30 years. I've devoted my life to this profession, and I'm grieved. Frankly, I'm shocked. I'm sickened by what I saw and what we've learned through our extensive and thorough investigation. I've seen the video, and as DA Mulroy stated, you will too. In a word, it's absolutely appalling. Let me be clear. What happened here does not at all reflect proper policing.
With him being on the force for 30 plus years, you know good and well, my name has been thrown up in front of his attention on his desk several different times. Unbelievable how these people that are still policing after 30 plus years that our country has become this unsafe. And it's almost as if every day it becomes a little bit more unsafer over here in America. And whenever it gets to the point that we can't even trust the judges and the law enforcement agencies that we have put in power that's supposed to protect us, because not only do they not protect us, but in a lot of cases attack us and try to bring harm and hurt into our lives. And I hope Don Curry, that lives over in Rutherford, Tennessee, that was a part of the movement towards going to destroy the individual right now that got something caught in his throat and he's trying to get it out. I hope that he watches this and accepts the repercussions towards what he has done, along with hundreds, if not thousands more in this great nation that has turned this nation upside down. I really don't know what prevents the President of the United States declaring this as an act of war, because we're basically in a state of civil war right now. Whenever you see all this kind of carnage and bloodshed, and if it's not happening from one party, it's happening to another. This much confusion, this much sorrow, this much havoc, this much anarchy. I'm really surprised that our President of the United States hadn't declared a state of an emergency with our nation, because obviously this has become a contamination. It's a pandemic with all this violence, with all this bloodshed. And to see episode after episode, event after event after event after event after event. I mean, I guess the name of the game was to try to callous us to the point that we no longer considered it to be abnormal or wrong. But it's not working. Not with a lot of us. Maybe not with all of us, but a lot of us are sitting back and we're saying, so that's what this is all about. We are under a demonic, forceful attack that I continue to keep saying again and again, that until we're willing to acknowledge that, it's only going to remain in getting worse. That's what Northwest Tennessee has to be proud of now, pertaining to the movement that others have done, that now others are suffering the consequences towards. And whenever people tell me, well, Dennis, those people are all dead, that's an inaccurate report, because the people that was involved in it, just like the name I just got through putting out, Don Curry, that basically got fired for dereliction of duty because he sat back and watched somebody get a beating, didn't offer to assist in helping that person. Not all these people are dead. Not all these preachers and teachers and mayors and governors and people that took a part in all this for the past 30 plus years, not all of them are dead. Matter of fact, a great deal of them are still alive. A whole lot of them are still alive. And I hope that they stay alive. I really do. Because what has occurred here, not just with the climate deniers, not just with the election deniers, but with the Bible deniers, that has led us down this endless road of doom and gloom right now that a great deal of people are waking up to, because of the embarrassing atrocities that has occurred, are realizing, my God, what have we become? Just a bunch of ravaged animals? And that's what happens whenever your own government creates malice again and again and again. And it wasn't just the malice pertaining to the Windmill Ministries beginning in 1989, whenever Madison County, working with the Homeland Security, Secret Service, decided that they was going to confiscate something from a ministry that they never should have confiscated. But it's all and the above. In watching how this great nation has fallen apart at the very seams of what we're now supposed to be getting callous to, towards it being the normal, but certain people, such as myself, realizes that this is not normal. Whenever I was growing up in the 60s and the 70s, yeah, there was a few incidences here and there. And even the early 80s, leading into the 90s. But it's as if all of a sudden the very pits of hell has opened up and every demon has come out of the pits of hell towards wanting to lash out to the inhabitants here upon to the planet. And if they're not lashing out in one way towards ravaging us in one form or another, they're ravaging us in another form. So this scenario that is occurring here in America and throughout the planet, we have no one to blame but those that initiated this type of resistance movement, beginning with Ronald Reagan and in Ronald Reagan's 8-year term of his presidency.
This was wrong. This was criminal. The depth and breadth of the charges announced today speaks to the deliberate and thorough investigation that this case has received. And our work is not finished. We continue to pursue every lead. Justice demands it. And our agency exists so that guilt shall not escape, nor innocence suffer. To that end, I want to publicly thank our agents, our forensic scientists, our support staff, and our entire team around this state. They worked diligently to expedite this case. We've worked as hard as we could and as quickly as we could to provide a thorough, independent, unbiased investigative record to allow DA Mulroy and his team to make the most informed decision they could regarding these charges. I also want to thank the Memphis Police Department and the city leaders for their cooperation in this case, which I want to stress is ongoing at this time. Thank you.
We'll take a few questions. And let's make sure that one at a time.
One and then two, okay?
And you say the investigation's ongoing. Does that include other officers that were alluded to in CJ Davis' address last night, and also would it also involve the other EMTs and personnel from the fire department?
Nothing we do today or did today precludes the addition of any further charges regarding any of the people that you mentioned. We're still actively reviewing everything. Yes.
Sir, thank you. We have not heard from the police chief generally give a description of what occurred in the initial stop, any kind of timeline of what exactly occurred on that day. So I'm hoping perhaps you or the director there can explain to us, just give us as much as possible timeline of the events. He was stopped. Was this a legal stop? Why was he stopped? And then sort of continue to explain perhaps what happened in the moments after, as much as possible.
Right. I don't want to go into too much detail. And I suspect that all of your answers along those lines will, be forthcoming once you have a chance to view the video for yourself. I know that a lot of this has already been publicly released, but there was an initial traffic stop. We won't comment right now on the presence or absence of legality of the stop, but there was a traffic stop, and there was an initial altercation involving several officers and Mr. Nichols. Pepper spray was deployed. Mr. Nichols, fled on foot. There was another altercation at a nearby location at which the serious injuries were experienced by Mr. Nichols. After some period of time of waiting around afterwards, he was taken away by an ambulance. Beyond that, I don't really think we should go into any further details.
So there was a delay in a call.
I want to comment. I'd like to comment. And it's not this way with all officers, okay? But whenever you take enough of these hits in the eyes of the general public, eventually the general public catches on to this. And they get scared. They get frightened of these police officers. They get scared of the courts. They get scared of the judges. They get scared of the system in and of itself because of the type of behavior that we're seeing on TV almost endlessly every day pertaining to our politicians, in addition to all the violence. And because of it, that's the reason why a great deal of people run. Like the woman talked about earlier, this guy, he had an impeccable record. I don't even think he even had so much as a traffic violation. No criminal file. No problems with the juvenile case that I know of, or if it has, it hadn't been released yet. But whenever the public loses trust in their own government, this is the repercussions of it. Now, I just seen some kind of deal. I don't forgot now where it was. I think it was in, it may have been Puerto Rico. It was somewhere where people were just rioting and just absolutely going berserk. Why is, and it's not just one or two countries, and it may not be Puerto Rico, it may be another country, but why is all this occurring? Why is all this surfacing all at once after COVID towards going with a society that acted like that it was all about saving life to the degree now all we're thinking about is taking life? It's unbelievable how that this planet has taken an about face. And it's not just the police officers here in the state of Tennessee. It's the police officers everywhere that are now being challenged by their own citizens because of the distrust towards people being able to witness and see and observe with their own eyes that is causing this uprising. And that's exactly what it is. It may be happening in different spurts, may be happening over here and over there. But I mean, if you add all of it together, it's basically an uprising. And it's reached the degree in some incidences, it's almost like a hidden civil war. I hate to say that, but it really is, with all the gun violence and all the drug overdoses and people basically committing suicide and seeing how that the social media has affected so many people's lives. It's almost like a hidden civil war. And I don't even know that there even is such thing as a hidden civil war, because war is war, peace is peace. But whenever you have so much of it that it basically turns into a war, but nobody has declared it as a war, it's got to be labeled some way or another, some sort of heading. So I'm gonna use my own heading ability and say it's a hidden civil war. It's society lashing out because they're uncertain. They feel scared. They don't have confidence in their authorities. They can't trust their judges. They can't trust their courts. We have seen how manipulative that these prosecutors have been towards taking two people committing basically the exact same two crimes, and one of them gets the third degree and almost gets executed in front of everybody, while the other one basically gets the back of his hand slapped. So whenever you have a judicial system that is this corrupt, you're going to have more and more and more of this. And it just makes makes my heart break, because I knew where the point of origin began versus where we are today. And I can validate that. I'm a witness to this because I got records to prove it. No ifs, ands about it. It is so remorsefully, heartbreakingly sad.
Late calling an ambulance for
There was an elapsed period of time, but I believe that if you watch the video, you'll be able to make that judgment for yourself. Erica, do you want to? I'm trying to give everyone a chance to.
Ellie President, CBS News.
Mhm.
Is it known if Tyree Nichols had previously known these former officers?
We have no information to disclose about that at this time. I don't know why Chief Davis isn't here. Anything else? Yeah.
Cover up for him, boy. Cover him up.
Well, the actual release will be up to the city of Memphis. My understanding is that it'll be a combination of pole cam video, sky cop video, and body cam video.
We'll take this one more question. One more question.
That there will be a review of specialized units within the Memphis Police Department. Two questions. First, were these officers a member of the organized crime unit? And second, will your office be involved in that investigation?
Well, so I've read in the newspaper that Chief Davis has announced a review of those specialized units. I think that's a good idea. I commend Chief Davis for doing that. I think Chief Davis is committed to, trying to do whatever she can to learn lessons from this incident. I don't contemplate that our office would be involved in that review. I think that's about as.
Members of the organized crime unit?
So I think it's already been reported publicly that the Scorpion unit was involved.
Thank you.
Is that it? That's it. Okay. I'm being told that's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. To explain it? I don't mind doing that. I mean, explaining the laws, I don't think at all. Say it again? Yeah. So, all right. So, kidnapping is any unlawful confinement of another, which substantially restrains someone's liberty. At a certain point in the sequence of events, it is our view that this, if it was a legal detention to begin with, it certainly became illegal at a certain point, and it was an unlawful detention. The aggravated nature of the charge is because if that kidnapping resulted in bodily injury, that's one grounds for saying that it is aggravated kidnapping. If the persons involved in that unlawful restraint of liberty possessed weapons, that is another ground for saying that the kidnapping was aggravated. Do you want me to explain the other charges as well, or?
So that's where the city police in downtown Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, this is where my case should step in. After they had planted a bomb in the back of my truck and activated it, and then put me all over Channel 9, Channel 16, Channel 6, all their local downtown TV stations in their Capitol building there. That morning, as I was leaving to go back to work, or go back to where I was staying at to be able to go to work, I was harassed again by the Oklahoma Police Department and arrested supposedly for running a red light. And as I've said before, I've had probably in total 200 or 300 guns pointed at me, including live missiles off of a helicopter pointing at me. From what I'm hearing, because it was an unlawful arrest, and which I've never heard of anybody being arrested for running a red light. Especially if I didn't have no prior record towards points on my record to begin with. But they arrested me and put me in jail overnight, which basically should be categorized as kidnapping. And I couldn't tell you the amount of times that has happened in my life, regardless whether it was the state police in Kentucky or the federal police in Kentucky or the state of Tennessee, that I went to court in Davidson County twice before they finally realized that they didn't have a case and they throwed the case out. But even as they throwed the case out, telling me that I was on probation, which was another illegal act of the Tennessee law, in addition to what went on in my life in 2005 here in Martin, Tennessee, towards falsifying files, I couldn't tell you how many times that I had been kidnapped. Unlawful incarceration. And then they throw me in front of this public defender, which is nothing but a joke, that continues want to chastise me or punish me or bring retribution to me in some form or fashion simply because of me standing up telling people about God and the Lord Jesus Christ and my message that God has given to me to give to others. So whenever I make the gestures that I make about various people that one day they're going to be held accountable, I couldn't mean it any greater than me saying what I say about the police department here in Northwest Tennessee that engage in these type of activities. Now, not all of them are bad, but there's a bushel basket full of them that are.
Okay. All right. Official misconduct is when any public official acting part of their official duties intentionally or knowingly acts in a way, exercises authority that is unauthorized by law. All right. So that's an affirmative statement, an affirmative act of official misconduct. At the same time, law enforcement officials who are on duty are also under an affirmative duty to prevent official misconduct. And to accurately report information to any medical personnel that show up. And through inaction, when there is a duty imposed by law, that could also be a separate ground for charging official misconduct. Official oppression is a related statute. It's not exactly the same. There's some overlap, but it's not perfect overlap. But it is basically some sort of, by an official, knowing mistreatment in the course of carrying out their official duties. Aggravated assault, I think, is fairly obvious, and under the laws of Tennessee, second-degree murder is a knowing killing.
Is that something that you're off the track? How long the video will be redacted?
There will be redactions, yes. Yes, to protect the privacy of third parties.
How long does your officer keep track of officers charged with misconduct and corporation?
Sorry, once I start answering one, I have to answer all.
See how they brush the public off whenever they're caught red-handedly? The whole concept for me going out to Oklahoma was to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, to the American people pertaining to the cover-up with the Timothy McVeigh Nichols bombing that took place in 1995 that took out 168 people within just a matter of a split second. The whole concept towards telling people that there was going to be major electrical disturbances to come in regarding either people sabotaging their own electrical grid systems or because of mass amounts of forces of nature coming down in an erratical phenomenon way was to try to help the people in the United States. By sending a t-shirt to the 43rd President of the United States and telling him that God had showed me that there was going to be a massive bloody road ahead was to help, to alert, put out advisories and warnings to the American people. I have been punished endlessly for trying to do the proper, right, godly thing. That according to their laws, they have broken the law again and again and again and again, not just in my life, but in all these other people's lives that we continue to keep seeing again and again and again. So, you tell me, I mean, if stuff like this was to happen in another country, even in a third world country, they would rise up and they would make sure probably over half, if not all them people that was standing on that podium just then, especially the chief, wherever he was or she was, that they would resign. Not just the officers, but the people that was above them. That's where accountability starts. It starts at the head, not at the tail. It's just like what they're doing with January 6th. They want to punish everybody that done what they done January the 6th towards the rioting, in which they should. But they still haven't went after the main perpetrator that caused it. And you wonder what's wrong with our American laws? Good luck to all of us. I want to say shalom and God bless and heaven help us all. Thank you for your prayers. And good luck. Good luck.